Welcome to the Global African. Today's stories has a bit of everything: trade, war, pressure on energy, and an entertainment story that's going to hit a lot of people right in the nostalgia. Let's begin with Ghana. President John Dramani Mahama has accused the United States of normalizing the erasure of Black history. Now, he pointed to things like removing Black history from school material, dismantling slavery exhibits, banning books, and restoring Confederate symbols. Ghana also plans to push a UN resolution on reparations for transatlantic slavery. Now, when leaders say history is being erased, they are also saying identity is under attack. More than 120 countries backed it, even though the US and some European countries pushed back. To understand why this matters, you have to go back centuries. Between the 15th and 19th centuries, at least 12.5 million Africans were taken and sold into slavery. Ghana's position is that this was not just a tragedy of the past. Its consequences are still visible today in racial inequality, stolen wealth, lost heritage, and global power imbalances. So, this is not just a symbolic vote, it is a bigger fight over memory, justice, and whether the world is finally ready to move from acknowledgement to accountability. I love this one. Now to Nigeria, where the government is launching its first phase of a national single window platform at its ports. That may sound technical, but the idea is simple. Too many businesses lose time and money moving goods through Nigerian ports because the paperwork, inspections, and approvals can be slow and messy. Now, RT says the platform will start with one port and one shipping line before expanding. Now, the deeper issue here is that trade inefficiency has quietly been acting like a tax on ordinary people. When ports are slow, goods cost more, businesses waste longer, and the whole economy becomes less competitive. So, this story is really about whether digital reform can start cutting through the bottlenecks that have frustrated importers and exporters for years. From Nigeria, let's move over to Cameroon, where trade ministers are meeting for critical talks on reforming the World Trade Organization. Now, this may not sound exciting at first, but it is actually a very important global story happening on African soil. The WTO's dispute system has been paralyzed for 6 years. Now, countries are fighting over digital trade rules, and there is a real fear that if reform talks fail, more governments will start writing their own trade rules outside the system. Now, that matters for Africa because many African economies depend on stable global trade rules, especially when it comes to food imports, exports, and digital commerce. So, the bigger question is this: if the global trade referee is losing authority, what happens to the smaller economies that need predictable rules the most? Now to the ongoing US-Israel conflict, where the latest twist is about diplomacy, or maybe the lack of it. Iran says it is reviewing a US ceasefire proposal, but insists there are no negotiations happening right now. Now, RT says the proposal was passed through Pakistan and includes sweeping demands, including dismantling Iran's nuclear and missile programs and changing how the Strait of Hormuz is controlled. Now, Iran has rejected the idea that it is eager for talks, even while intermediaries like Pakistan, Egypt, Turkey, and now China are all trying to push both sides towards some kind of opening. Now, this war began on February 28th, and in just a few weeks, it has killed thousands, hit energy infrastructure, rattled global markets, and created one of the biggest oil shocks in years. So, this really matters because it shows how hard it is to end a war once each side feels the terms of peace already sound like surrender. And here is where that war starts to feel much closer to home. Africa is now dealing with real fuel and electricity pressure because the conflict has disrupted shipments through the Strait of Hormuz. RT reports that Mauritius is limiting some non-essential electricity use. South Sudan's capital, Juba, is rationing power. Uganda has seen tight fuel stocks. Kenya has supply constraints at some stations, and parts of South Africa have seen panic buying ahead of expected fuel price increases. Now, this is one of those stories that proves that global conflicts don't stay where it is. It can show up in transport costs, blackouts, higher prices, and public anxiety thousands of miles away. That is why this matters to young Africans, even if the war is not happening on African soil. On the entertainment side today, Miley Cyrus is making 20 years since Hannah Montana first aired with a new anniversary special. She called it a gift to the fans, and honestly, that makes sense. For a lot of people, Hannah Montana was not just a TV show, it was part of growing up. What makes this story interesting is that it taps into something bigger happening in entertainment right now. Nostalgia is powerful. Now, streaming platforms, musicians, and studios all know that people want content that reconnects them to a simpler time. So yes, this is a celebrity story, but it is also a reminder that pop culture does not just entertain people. It helps shape memory, identity, and even whole generations.
Thank you so much. Well, I have absolutely nothing prepared for this moment right now. And I did not do that by mistake. Because everything that we are going to celebrate tonight was not a mistake. It wasn't magic, which Disney is known for creating. It was the effort, the loyalty, the support of the fans who made my life possible beyond the show. And for that, I am so grateful to each and every one of you.
Now for our underrated genius moment. Today's name is Mark Dean. He is an American computer engineer who played a major role in the development of the IBM personal computer and helped shape technologies that made modern computing more practical and widely used. In simple terms, the digital world most people live in today did not appear out of nowhere. It was built by minds like this, even if their names do not get mentioned enough. I remember my first PC, my first desktop PC was an IBM machine, and oh my, that was a strong one. Big ups to IBM and to Mark Dean. And here is today's fun fact. Honey never really spoils. Yes, archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient tombs that were still good thousands of years later. So, honey is basically the overachiever of food. Yeah, so what ties today's stories together? It is a question of systems. Who writes the rules? Who fixes broken system? Who remembers history honestly? And who pays the price when those systems fail? That is why these stories matter. They are not just random updates. They are all really about power, responsibility, and the future. Let me know which of these stories stood out most for you, and subscribe to the Global African for more news and real perspective. See you in the next episode.